Morning. How are you?
How we doing? We're doing good.
Good.
So, yeah.
From that, even six practices in, ready to name a starter or quarterback?
Oh, no.
You sure? Come on, let's make some news.
Let's make some news. That's a good point. But we're not into making news. We're into all of them are doing really well. We're just, as we say, we're just trying to get better every day. And I think the entire group at all positions has really upped the effort. You can look at, some of the data we look at from a GPS standpoint in terms of what those guys are putting up for high-speed yards, explosive efforts, things like that, and they're all better than they've ever been. So, they're practicing at a really high level, and it's about trying to get as many reps as we possibly can because we learn by doing it. So the more reps we can get our guys, the better they become, and I think that whole group has specifically the quarterbacks, you can see them improving on a daily basis. So 6 practices in, we're happy where we are right now.
I don't think you've ever talked about that fallback technology that you use with the vests, the monitoring their heart, work rate, everything. How is that from back in the day when you didn't have that compared to now? What kind of advantage was that?
I think, it's an advantage, I think, because when you look at things, if things are predictable, they're preventable. So if you can predict that if a kid runs over 125 high-speed yards can result in a soft tissue injury, then wouldn't you want to know if he's gotten to that threshold before he gets to that threshold? So there's times in practices where we monitor our players in real time, and KB and our strength staff will tell us, hey, Colson Yankov's at 125 right now, so we may not let him go in the last period of the day because we know through science that overuse injuries, when it comes to soft tissue injuries, usually those injuries occur towards the end of a training session. So you can actually get hard data on how many yards they've covered so far. On the flip side of that is if someone can get injured because of underuse. So if you look at, we had a player in the NFL that pulled a hamstring, but then we went back and looked at the 6 games before that, 6 weeks before that, and he had never gotten to 75% of his high-speed velocity in practice. And then he went out in the game, and because he wasn't ready to play, he had a hamstring injury. So you'll see some of our kids running post-practice. It's not a punishment. It's just to make sure that they're getting the amount of yards they need to get to keep their fitness level. So we use all that stuff right now, whether it be a heart rate monitor or the GPS stuff, just to be, to try to eliminate the soft tissue injuries. There are certain injuries in this game that you can't prevent. If someone gets hit the wrong way, they may break a finger. You can't prevent that. But the soft tissue injuries are the things that we don't have a ton of. It's because we really try to stay on top of it from that standpoint.
So you have personnel monitoring all the players in real time? I mean, is this like a big headquarters of all those screwed out?
It's just a computer. It's just a computer, and it's just really how far they're traveling distance-wise. It's just GPS is open. We monitor that way.
How far you go?
What's that? No, I go steps. As you get older, it's steps now. I know.
I got you.
When did you start implementing all that stuff?
Way back, probably 2009. And it's interesting. I think football is behind other sports in terms of that. I remember talking to Brandy Chastain, the U.S. women's soccer team, and they were doing it in the 90s. There's a lot of technology out there, and it's really what's of use to you, what's not of use to you. So, but it's just a way to kind of, sometimes you can eyeball it when you have an idea like, hey, he's looked like he's worked really hard. Other times, some kids are so efficient in their movements, it doesn't look like they're working hard, but they're actually working very good. So I think sometimes it can reveal something that the naked eye can't see. But it's real data, it's science. So it's kind of what we try to base everything up.
As far as senior receivers go, Braden Pegan, Ryan Reagan, they look like they've both been heavily involved. His first 2 weeks. How have they developed over the year we have them?
Both those guys have done a really nice job. And I would say for that whole group, they're all heavily involved. So I think when you look at the rep count of all our receivers, one of the byproducts of how we train is that everybody gets reps, So we're limited in the rotation with the offensive line of just being 2 deep, but almost every other position with 3 and 4 deep. So those guys are all getting a ton of reps. That's one of the reasons we do so many team sessions, half line, 7-on-7, groups, things like that, so that we can get actual live reps. And when you have that many players, it's why we can practice for the full amount of time that we had. Our first year, I think we had 60 kids in spring ball. We actually bring spring ball up, started before break, and had to take a 2-week rest and then try to start back up just because we couldn't train at the level we wanted to train at. Now, when we have almost 110 guys out here, we can do that. So I think that whole group's doing well. Braden is a a really talented player that we had fortunate to redshirt. He did play in 4 games for us last year, and really excited where he is from a future. He can run. He tracks the ball really, really well. He's a fast learner, so we're excited about his progress. And then Ryan transferred in from Penn. He didn't have the benefit of spring ball last year because he wasn't here for that, so he just got here in the summertime. And because of the extra COVID year, I think he's really capitalized on that. Worked very hard in the off season to kind of put himself in a position where, we're going to need a lot of depth out there anyways, and I think Ryan's going to be a big part of that slot.
Chip, what have you seen from college slate that talked about the difficulty at times in adjusting when he was from coming from where he was, and what have you seen as his development? So
yeah, I think Colin's unique in the fact that he's probably played the most snaps at the quarterback position at the Division I level, even more than guards, because he was a starter at Kent State. The transition for Colin, different than some other people, is just terminology. So he's run whatever concepts we run, but they may have called it differently, so it's just, we call it this, you call it that, how do I transition and train it so when he's up there, he's not thinking, he's just reacting how it's going. But he's done a really good job. He's sharp. He's a good student, really does a really good job in the classroom. He's a student when it comes to football. He was a really good basketball player coming out of high school. I think he was offered multiple basketball scholarships coming out too. So he's got a real good understanding of spatial awareness and a lot of things that basketball will do. It's a great sport to play in the winter to complement football. And so he's done a really nice job. And you can see him getting better and stronger mentally every day just because he's just more comfortable in what we're doing. But he has a great grasp of football and offensive football in general. So just getting the terminology on and just getting comfortable. So he's just not thinking when he's up there taking us out.
do you think the terminology would affect us? Had his reads sometimes?
No, I think sometimes it just slows you down a little bit. If you had to go into a foreign country and order, you could probably get lunch ordered, but it's not going to be as fast as they would if you were here. That's just really what it is. And the longer he gets comfortable with it, the better off he's going to be.
What have you seen from J. Michael so far?
Yeah, he's a special player. I think the one thing I don't think you guys get to see and that we've seen since January is just his work ethic. His approach to everything. He's really serious about football and he's really serious about daily improvement. But he's got a really unique skill set. For a guy that tall and long to run that fast. He's right up there with the fastest guys we have on this team. He's run 22 plus, almost 23 miles an hour, right on the edge of 23. And I think he can go 23. But we backed him off when we were testing just because we didn't want to. He'd already run as many high-speed yards as we had. That was an example of if he ran again, maybe he would have got to 23, but we don't need to do that right now. But he can really go. He tracks the ball very, very well. He's physical. He's everything you want in a receiver. So, I don't think we've had that speed on the perimeter in a while. And then to add the length to it, I know Kaz could run, but Kaz wasn't J. Mike's height. So he's a unique combination, and we're excited, really, really excited about how he'll fit in what we're doing.
How's he doing transition-wise, just coming in, learning everything?
He's been great. He's really sharp. So I think he's picked up things really, really well. I think he's learning our tempo and speed of how we train and how we practice. And you can see him kind of, even from day 1 to day 2, was like, all right, this is what it's like. I got you. And then he's hit the ground running, but he's been great in the meeting rooms. He was great in the whole winter program, from January to March. That 10-week lifting program that KB had all those guys on. So he's really stepped up. Him and Kyle Ford both really stepped up because we lost some older players. We lost Jake Bobo, Kyle Phillips a couple years, like in 2 years before that. Kaz is gone, so the older guys in that room right now are J. Mike and Kyle to go along with Logan and Cam. But I think both those guys, Kyle and J. Mike, can fit in really well.
Have you seen anything with Kyle just coming over from the USC? Is there a transition for him coming over from a rival school like that? Is everyone supportive? Do they any little ribbing or anything like that?
Now, maybe with the players in the locker room, but nothing, he's Kyle's a class act and another kid with a tremendous work ethic. So I think I don't think people really think anything of anybody until you see them on the field and know what they do. And then if you kind of walk the walk before you talk the talk is kind of what Kyle is. He's a quiet guy, but he gets his stuff done. Another guy that's got a really, really high upside when it comes to work ethic and attention to detail. You could tell Kyle really, really wants to be special just because of how he approaches things on a daily basis. So he fits in with the culture of all the other guys we have here, because everybody else, that's what we're trying to do. We're just, how do we improve? And how do we improve on a daily basis? And really not comparing myself to another player, but just comparing myself to myself. So can I be better in training session 7 than I was in training session 6? And can I keep stacking those? And as a whole, every single one of our training sessions from 1 to 6, we've increased. And now can we do it again? And can we be better in 7 than we were in 6? And that's what we're trying to do. And Kyle leads from the front. I really have to say anything. You can just see him and see 19 out there running around saying, hey, this kid's, he knows what he wants, and he's really just investing in himself. But both those guys have set a real good example just by their work ethic, more than just saying things. Because sometimes words are empty. It's your actions that are the most important. And both those guys, their actions have been outstanding.
Last week, Grayson was talking about playing with emotion and not letting emotions play with you. He said that's something that comes from the coaches. So is that something that...
Yeah, and I love their emotion. And they're dialed in and as intense as they get. But I think all of us, no matter who you are, coaches, players, whatever, I think sometimes when you let your emotion play with you, you get off track, And we always talk about being the most prepared and the least distracted. Sometimes the distraction is self-inflicted. We didn't like a call or we thought we were getting held. We're worried about that. But the most important thing is to play the next play. Our definition of mental toughness is the ability to move on to the next most important play. And I think sometimes when Grayson or Gabe got held, they let that affect them, when you get to the next play. What they've done this spring and what they've done in the offseason have been unbelievable of being able to move on to the next play. And they're two of the most mentally tough guys we've been around. And they've really shown that. All right, you held me good. What's the next snap? I'm going to beat you on the next one. And they're doing a great job of that. And that's really what we talk about is playing with emotion, because I don't want them to not play with emotion. Their emotions were their biggest strengths, but to channel it into the right area and in the right direction.
Is this an emotional team, or is that something that you talked about specifically?
No, we talk about all the time. I talk about it to everybody. I think it's the same thing. We all get like that. I can get distracted if there's a bad call by an official, but I have to learn to say, I got to move up. You know what I mean? I've yet to, in my coaching career, talk an official out of a call, so why would I spend my time trying to, maybe this time, maybe the 3,000th time they're going to listen to me and say, you know what, Chip, you were right. We'll pick the flag up. It doesn't work that way, but sometimes so we can get angry.
But you'd do that maybe for an influence for the next call, possibly set the precedent.
Yeah, you know what? I justify it to myself that way. I don't really sitting here at 8:35 on a Tuesday morning in April. I probably don't have as much impact as I think I did.
Okay, next time we'll ask you after the game, right?
Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Fair enough.
Yeah.
This roster's had some guys who have, made position switches and things like that. Are there any guys that you guys are looking at, or have there any conversations started with some other players about maybe making position changes or anything?
Not that I can think of. I really can't think of many position switches already, though. Most of the guys are kind of where they were before, I think. Yeah, anybody in particular you're talking about?
No, it's switch has to be general.
It's because, this time of the year, I remember last year you mentioned something like Tyler Manoa with...
Yeah, we didn't, no one went from O-line to D-line or D-line to O-line. We didn't have any of that. We're always trying to, though, when we evaluate our players, to try to put them in the best situations for them so that they can make an impact. But we didn't have anything drastic like that. There may be a nickel safety that's playing some outside corner or a corner that's playing some safety, but that's a DB playing one of the DB positions, or, a linebacker from playing Will going to Mike, because when we get into our third down package, we want to make sure he stays on the field, but nothing drastic like that. Our O-line's still our O-line, and our tight ends are our tight ends, or, it's kind of simple like that, I think. But we're always trying to, can we add, especially as you get older, can you add a little bit, another layer to you? Can a kid be a DB? As a DB, can he be a safety and a corner? I think that adds depth down the road. That's part of it, but it's still the same position in mind.
And Chip, going back to the TJ, Mike, you mentioned you have probably seen this amount of speed on the perimeter, with kind of a pretty new quarterback room. How do you kind of envision being able to unlock him without at guys be able to...
Yeah, all of those quarterbacks can make the throws that are necessary to get the ball to J. Mike, so it's not... I don't think we envision that. And we've had some guys with speed. Cam can fly. Kaz can fly. We just haven't we haven't been around somebody that tall and long that runs that fast. We've had some other guys that run that fast, but they're not as tall and long as him. That's the unique combination that I think he brings.